The exile. The galaxy was once full of hope for humanity. Earth had built an empire that stretched across star systems, their ships and technology unrivaled by any other species. But all of that changed one fateful day. The Galactic Federation had decided that humanity was a threat. No longer seen as the peaceful explorers they once were, humans were now regarded as dangerous, too ambitious, too powerful for the good of the galaxy. There were whispers of how humans had conquered entire planets, bending entire civilizations to their will. Some feared them, others envied them. The time had come for a decision. A cold message came through every communication channel, harsh and final. Humanity is hereby exiled from the stars. You will never again be allowed to step foot on any world within the Galactic Federation. Your species is a danger to the peace of the galaxy. The humans were stunned. They were used to resistance and challenges, but this was different. They had been abandoned. No fleet came to protect them. No allies came to their side. The Federation's forces were too strong. The humans had no choice but to accept their fate, or at least, that's what the Federation thought. They were forced to leave their space stations, their colonies, and even the homes they had built across planets. They were shoved into the dark corners of the galaxy, far from any stars, any civilizations, any hope. But the Federation had made one big mistake. They underestimated the humans. The humans, exiled and abandoned, didn't panic. They didn't give in to despair. Instead, they did what they had always done best. They survived. They adapted. They found a way to make their new, hostile planet their home. They landed on a barren, rocky world, far from the familiar sights of the star systems they had once ruled. The land was unforgiving, the air thin, and the climate harsh. It was the perfect place to die, but for humanity, it was the perfect place to start again. The first days were rough. The humans were cold, hungry, and terrified. They had no advanced technology, no ships to carry them back to the stars, and no communication with the outside world. The Federation had made sure of that. All the human ships were destroyed, and their communications were jammed. They had nothing but each other and the land beneath their feet. But the human spirit was strong. They built shelters from the materials they could find. They created fire, dug into the earth to find water, and began to grow food. With every passing day, they grew stronger. They learned quickly that their survival depended on their unity. The exiled humans didn't just survive. They began to thrive. At first, they kept to small groups. Engineers worked to piece together old technology. Scientists experimented with what little they had, and farmers grew crops from the soil. They all worked together, each person contributing their knowledge and skills. The new world had no place for selfishness. Everyone had to be part of something bigger. But even as they began to build, they knew something bigger was out there. They had heard rumors, whispers of a powerful, forgotten technology beneath the planet's surface. It was an ancient civilization's ruins, buried for centuries, perhaps millennia. This was humanity's chance, the break they needed to prove themselves. One of the leaders, a former commander of a fleet now turned scavenger, called a meeting. "We may have been thrown here," he said, his voice carrying across the crowded room, "but we're not broken. We have the strength, the knowledge, and the will to rebuild. We will find a way to rise again. This planet may be barren, but it's not our end. It's our new beginning." His words filled them with purpose. The humans had a vision now. They weren't just going to survive on this lonely planet. They were going to thrive and one day return to the stars. Not as exiles, but as conquerors. There was no going back. The Federation thought they had defeated humanity, but they had only made them stronger. The humans worked day and night, using what little they had to search for the ancient technology hidden beneath the planet. They were determined to find it, to understand it, and to use it to rebuild their empire. Their first breakthrough came months later. They discovered a hidden underground structure. It was more advanced than anything they had ever seen. The humans weren't just surviving anymore. They were starting to understand what they had found. They started to reverse engineer the technology, piece by piece. It was unlike anything the humans had ever imagined. It was ancient, but far more advanced than anything they had ever built. As they unlocked the secrets hidden within the technology, they realized something. They weren't just going to build a new civilization here. They were going to build something that could rival the power of the galaxy itself. The Federation had cast them aside, thinking they were weak. They were wrong. In the depths of their exile, humanity had found strength, the kind of strength that came from struggle, from perseverance, and from never giving up. The humans had been cast out, but they would return, stronger, smarter, and more determined than ever. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The struggle to survive. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The barren planet, which had once felt like a prison, was slowly becoming something else. It was now home, the only home humanity had left. But it came at a cost. Every day was a battle. The resources were few, the dangers were plenty, and the land itself seemed determined to crush them beneath its weight. The humans knew that they couldn't afford to waste time. There was no telling how long their isolation would last, how long it would take for any of the galactic powers to notice that they weren't truly defeated. The Federation had cast them out, thinking they would fade into nothing. But the humans had different plans. They were building something here, in the shadows of their exile. A leader among them, Commander Elise Carrington, had a vision. She had been a fleet commander once, respected across the stars for her strategic mind and her unshakable will. Now, on this alien world, she was more than a leader. She was a symbol of what humanity could be when backed into a corner. "We can't just survive," she said in a gathering one cold, moonless night. "We can thrive. We'll make this world work for us. And when the time is right, we'll remind the galaxy why humanity was feared in the first place." Her words lit a fire in the hearts of those who listened. The humans were not the weak, helpless creatures the Federation had fought them to be. They had ingenuity, creativity, and the kind of resilience that no alien civilization could ever truly understand. While the rest of the galaxy was enjoying their peace, the humans were working tirelessly, and they were getting results. The first breakthrough came when a group of engineers uncovered something truly astonishing, a small device buried deep within the ground. It was strange, unlike anything humanity had ever seen. It was made of materials that didn't exist in their world. It pulsed with energy, seemingly alive in its own way. The engineers quickly realized that this was a remnant of the ancient civilization that had once inhabited this world. With careful hands, they began to study it, working around the clock to understand its purpose. Days turned into nights, and each passing hour brought them closer to a discovery that would change everything. It wasn't long before they realized that this device wasn't just some ancient relic. It was a power source, a highly advanced one. The kind of energy it produced could power an entire city or even a fleet of ships for centuries. With this discovery, humanity's future seemed a little brighter. But there were dangers too. The planet, though full of resources, was far from forgiving. Strange creatures, aggressive storms, and unpredictable weather patterns made every step forward feel like a risk. The humans had to fight, not just against their environment, but against their own doubts. What if the technology was too advanced for them to understand? What if they couldn't unlock its secrets? Commander Carrington led by example. She took every challenge head-on, from dangerous expeditions into the planet's deepest caverns to negotiating with the other exiled groups who had settled nearby. The planet was not empty after all. Other civilizations, cast out just like humanity, had found refuge here. Some were peaceful, while others were aggressive, distrustful of any newcomers. It was the other exiles that presented the first real threat to humanity's survival. One group, calling themselves the Dracs, was a fierce, militaristic species that had been exiled for their violent tendencies. They were powerful and aggressive, having made a name for themselves by conquering smaller planets. The Dracs didn't believe in peaceful coexistence. They believed in domination, and they saw humanity's rise as a challenge to their authority on the planet. The first encounter between the humans and the Dracs was brutal. The Dracs attacked without warning, their ships landing in a cloud of smoke and dust, their weapons trained on the human settlement. Commander Carrington knew that the humans were not ready for open warfare. Not yet. They had no fleet, no way of defending themselves, and their resources were still limited. But what the Dracs didn't know was that humanity had one weapon they couldn't fight: their ability to adapt. Carrington ordered her people to abandon their regular weapons and use their environment to their advantage. The humans used the terrain to hide, setting traps and clever ambushes. They didn't need the best weapons. They just needed their ingenuity. The battle was intense, but by the time it ended, the Dracs had retreated, confused and humiliated. They didn't understand how humans had managed to hold their ground. For the humans, it was a victory, one that proved they could survive and fight, no matter the odds. It wasn't just about power. It was about intelligence, strategy, and above all, determination. With the Dracs defeated, humanity began to make real progress. The planet's harsh conditions, once seen as an obstacle, now became an asset. The harsh environment pushed humanity to develop more efficient ways of surviving. They built cities that could withstand the planet's storms, devised new technologies to mine the planet's resources, and began to terraform parts of the world to make it more habitable. Still, there was a nagging feeling in the back of their minds. The humans knew that sooner or later, someone would notice them. The Federation, the other galactic races, they were all watching. They might have forgotten humanity for now, but that wouldn't last forever. The humans were determined to be ready when the time came. The technology they had found was only the beginning. They were going to rebuild. And this time, they wouldn't just be survivors. They would be conquerors. The awakening. As the humans settled deeper into their new existence, their world began to change. What had once seemed like an inhospitable wasteland was slowly transforming into a thriving, self-sufficient society. But it wasn't just the land that was changing. Something much more important was stirring beneath the surface. Commander Carrington's vision was becoming a reality. The humans were no longer just survivors. They were innovators, engineers, and creators. With the discovery of the ancient technology, they had begun to build again. Faster, stronger, and more advanced than ever before. They were creating their own version of the galaxy's greatest civilizations, and it was something the universe would never expect. Yet, no matter how much they accomplished, no matter how many setbacks they overcame, a shadow still hung over them. The humans knew that the galaxy had not forgotten them. They had been exiled, pushed to the fringes, and yet they still had a reputation. Some species would view them as a threat, others as a curiosity, but all would take notice when the time came. One day, deep within the mines where they had uncovered the ancient ruins, an unexpected discovery was made. The miners, digging into a cavern miles beneath the planet's surface, unearthed something unlike anything they had seen before. It was a ship, massive and broken, its sleek hull covered in dust and age. But it wasn't just any ship. It was an alien warship, far older than anything humanity had ever encountered. This wasn't just a relic of the ancient civilization that had once lived on this planet. It was something far more powerful, a key to the past, perhaps even to the future. The ship was equipped with technology that defied all human understanding, with energy systems and weapons that could outmatch anything humanity had ever built. Commander Carrington was quick to assemble a team of engineers, scientists, and military strategists. They knew that what they had discovered could be the turning point they needed to challenge the galaxy. They could either reverse engineer the ship and its technology, or allow it to remain buried and forgotten. But humanity had already proven time and time again that they did not back down from a challenge. They would not let this opportunity slip away. The team worked tirelessly for weeks, deciphering the ship's systems. It was slow work, filled with frustration and setbacks, But the breakthrough came when one of the engineers, a young woman named Margot, discovered a small hidden compartment deep inside the ship's core. Inside, there was an artifact, a crystal, glowing with an eerie blue light. When Margot held the crystal in her hand, something incredible happened. The ship's systems began to hum to life. The engines, dormant for eons, sparked and flared to life. The once dead ship came alive with an eerie glow, as if it had been waiting for the humans to awaken it. The crystal was a key, and with it, humanity had unlocked the potential to not only use the technology, but to control it. For Commander Carrington, this was the moment she had been waiting for. The humans weren't just rebuilding their civilization, they were starting to build an empire. The ship would be their symbol, their strength. It would be the vessel that carried them back to the stars, to reclaim their place in the galaxy. But even as the humans reveled in their newfound power, they knew that their time on this planet was coming to an end. The Federation, despite their distance, would soon sense the awakening of such an advanced technology. They would not be content to let humanity rise again without intervening. And there were others. More exiled species, more ancient forces, who would not look kindly on the humans' return. One evening, as Commander Carrington stood on the balcony of the newly constructed citadel, she felt a deep unease. The stars above were distant, but they no longer felt so unreachable. Humanity had always been on the edge of the universe, but now, the edge was just the beginning. The Federation had thought they could push humanity out, but they had underestimated the will of a species that refused to be forgotten. As the wind blew through her hair, Carrington felt a chill. She turned to her second-in-command, Jarek, a battle-hardened soldier who had fought alongside her in the early days of their exile. "We're not alone in this galaxy," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The Federation may have cast us aside, but they're not the only ones watching. There are other powers out there, older, more dangerous, and we've just given them a reason to notice us." Jarek nodded solemnly. "And what will we do when they come?" Carrington's eyes hardened with resolve. "We'll remind them why humanity doesn't just survive. We thrive. And we'll show them what happens when you push us too far." The ship, now fully operational, was a force to be reckoned with. The humans had not only gained access to its ancient weaponry, but they also began to study its propulsion systems. They could now move faster, farther, and with greater power than they had ever imagined. The ship was more than just a means of travel. It was a symbol of the new humanity that was rising from the ashes of exile. But despite their technological advancements, the humans knew that their survival would depend on more than just weapons and ships. It would depend on their unity, on their ability to work together and outthink their enemies. Every step forward brought them closer to their ultimate goal, to return to the stars, to show the galaxy that they were not weak, and that they would never be forgotten. But the path ahead would not be easy. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was still only a small fraction of its power. The Federation would not give up their hunt so easily. The galaxy was full of challenges, but for the first time in a long while, humanity felt like they were in control of their own fate. The galaxy's stir. As the humans adjusted to their newfound power, something began to shift in the distant corners of the galaxy. The ancient warship was just the beginning of what would become a tidal wave of change. Humanity had not only unlocked an ancient alien technology, they had started to understand it. With every passing day, they were learning to harness the power of the stars themselves. Commander Carrington, standing on the observation deck of their new flagship, looked out at the distant planets that now felt so close. It was strange to think that only a few years ago, this vast universe had seemed so out of reach. Now, with the warship at their command, humanity could travel at speeds unimaginable. The Federation, who had once thought them insignificant, would soon realize that humanity was a force they could no longer ignore. Back on the home planet, the settlers continued their progress, and yet a growing unease hung in the air. The crystal they had discovered within the warship had revealed more secrets than they had anticipated. It wasn't just a key to unlocking ancient technology. It was a signal, a beacon sent out into the universe. And it was being answered. The first indication came in the form of a faint transmission, a barely perceptible blip on their communication systems. It wasn't much at first, a single sentence repeated over and over in a language they couldn't understand. But the tone of it sent chills down Carrington's spine. The transmission was old, almost as if it had been sent years, no, decades, ago. And it was specifically directed at humanity. "We have found you," the message repeated. At first, it was dismissed as a glitch, an error from the ancient technology they had tapped into. But as the message grew louder, clearer, they realized something far more terrifying. They weren't alone. Whoever had sent the message knew they were out there. Someone had been searching for humanity since the moment they had been exiled. "I don't care who sent this message," Carrington said, her voice firm, yet filled with concern. "But I do care why. And I'll be damned if we're going to sit idly by and wait for them to come to us." Over the next few weeks, the humans focused all their efforts on preparing for what was to come. They studied the alien technology further, working on improving the warship's weapons and defenses. Engineers and scientists were sent to the far corners of the galaxy, seeking new resources to fuel their growing ambitions. They had come so far, but they knew it wasn't enough. But it wasn't just the technology that was changing. The humans themselves were evolving. The crystal they had discovered had done more than just power the warship. It had begun to influence their physiology. Small changes were beginning to occur, subtle at first. A heightened sense of awareness, faster reflexes, and an uncanny ability to understand alien languages were among the first signs. It was as if the ship's ancient creators had left behind more than just technology. They had left a part of themselves in the crystal. As the humans adjusted to these new powers, the message grew louder. And then, one day, it stopped altogether. "What does it mean?" Jarek, Carrington's second-in-command, asked as he stood by her side in the control room. "Has the message been intercepted, or is something worse happening?" Carrington didn't have an answer. She stared at the silent transmission with a sense of unease. "It means we're running out of time." The silence was broken by a new signal. A ship, enormous, and beyond anything humanity had ever seen. The first thing they noticed was its size. It was larger than any vessel the Federation had ever built. It was sleek, dark, and menacing. There were no markings to indicate its origin, but it was clear that whoever had built it was far older and far more advanced than the Federation, or even the humans themselves. The ship's message was simple, yet chilling. "We have come for the exiles. Humanity will not be allowed to build an empire." Carrington knew they couldn't wait any longer. The time for diplomacy was over. The time for defense had arrived. Humanity's warship was ready, but now they would need more than just its firepower. They would need to outsmart this enemy, to use everything they had learned over the years to survive this fight. And so, as the massive alien ship approached their world, humanity stood on the edge of the greatest conflict they had ever known. The enemy revealed. The massive alien ship loomed in the distance, its dark hull reflecting the light of distant stars. To the humans on the warship, it felt like the universe itself was holding its breath. For the first time in centuries, humanity was facing a threat beyond the scope of their understanding. They had been exiled, forgotten, and now, the galaxy's oldest mysteries were catching up to them. On the bridge, Commander Carrington stood rigid, her eyes fixed on the approaching enemy ship. She had spent years preparing for this moment, but nothing could have prepared her for the sight that filled the view screen. This was no simple alien vessel. It was a warship, built with technology far beyond anything humanity had encountered before. Its design was graceful yet terrifying, its dark surface seeming to absorb the very light around it. "They've been watching us," Carrington murmured, more to herself than anyone else. "All this time, waiting for us to make a move." Behind her, the crew scrambled to maintain their composure. Sensors were flashing, indicating the enemy ship's weapons were online. It was clear that the aliens had no intention of negotiating. They had come for humanity, and they had come prepared. As the enemy vessel drew closer, Carrington made the decision. Prepare the warship for full engagement. We don't know what we're facing, but we won't back down. For a moment, there was silence. The tension in the air was palpable as the crew moved quickly, making adjustments to their weapons systems and shields. The hum of the ship's engines seemed to fade, replaced by the growing roar of anticipation. Jarek, her second in command, approached Carrington, his face tense with worry. "Commander, do you think this is the same force that sent the message?" Carrington nodded, her jaw set. "I don't know, but we'll find out soon enough." The first strike came without warning. A blinding beam of energy shot out from the alien vessel, slamming into the shields of the human warship with the force of 1,000 storms. The entire ship shook, alarms blaring as the crew struggled to regain control. "Shields at 70%, Commander," one of the officers shouted, energy levels rising fast. "We can't take another hit like that," Carrington muttered, her mind racing. "Target their engines. We need to disable them before they can fire again." Her orders were swift, and the crew moved into action. The warship's weapons came online, and a barrage of energy blasts shot out toward the enemy ship. It was a risky move, given the alien ship's superior firepower, but it was their only chance. For a moment, nothing happened. The energy blasts hit the enemy ship, but they didn't seem to cause any damage. The alien vessel's armor absorbed the attacks as if they were nothing more than a nuisance. "They're too powerful," Jarek said, his voice filled with frustration. "We're not going to win this by just shooting at them." Carrington's eyes narrowed as she considered the situation. "No, we're not. But we can outsmart them. We've been learning from their technology, and now it's time to put that knowledge to use." The humans had spent years studying the warship they had unearthed, and now they had an opportunity to put that knowledge to the test. The crystal they had discovered held more secrets than they had realized. It wasn't just a source of energy or a key to faster-than-light travel. It was a map that could lead them to the heart of the enemy's weakness. Carrington turned to her team. "We've learned enough to know that the alien ship systems are integrated. Every weapon, every shield, and every sensor is connected. If we can disrupt their central core, we can disable their weapons and force them to retreat. We just need to find the right spot." The crew worked in unison, using the ship's advanced sensors to pinpoint the enemy vessel's central core. It wasn't easy, and time was running out. With each passing second, the alien ship moved closer, its weapons charging for another devastating strike. "Ready, Commander," one of the engineers called out. "We've pinpointed the core's location. Just give the word." Carrington didn't hesitate. "Do it." In an instant, a surge of energy shot out from the human warship, directly targeting the alien ship's central core. For a moment, there was nothing but silence. Then, the enemy vessel's shields flickered and then failed. The core had been hit. The alien ship began to shake, its powerful engines sputtering. For the first time since the battle had begun, it seemed vulnerable. But the victory was short-lived. "Commander, we've got a bigger problem," Jarek shouted, his voice full of alarm. "Another fleet is emerging from hyperspace. It's not just one ship. There are dozens, maybe hundreds." Carrington's heart skipped a beat. The initial ship had only been the vanguard. And now, the full force of the alien army was about to descend on them. "We've bought ourselves some time," Carrington said, her voice steadied despite the overwhelming odds. "But we need to act fast. Prepare the warship for a full offensive. This battle is far from over." The humans had taken their first step into a galactic conflict that could shape the future of the universe. But they had learned something important. Humanity was not just fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting for their place in the stars, and they would not go down without a fight. As the new alien fleet closed in, Carrington's resolve hardened. They had faced extinction before. Now, They would fight back with everything they had. The price of victory. The battle had erupted into chaos. Humanity's warship, though formidable, was now surrounded by a swarm of alien ships, each more menacing than the last. The once calm void of space was filled with blinding flashes of light as energy weapons collided, and the sound of destruction rippled through the stars. The humans had fought valiantly, but the overwhelming force of the enemy was something they had not been prepared for. They had barely begun to grasp the full scale of the war they had unknowingly been dragged into. Commander Carrington stood at the helm, her mind racing as she ordered another round of defensive maneuvers. Her crew was exhausted, but they had no choice. The battle was far from over, and they had to push forward, not just for their survival, but for the future of their people. "Shields at 30%, Commander," a voice shouted from the back of the bridge. "We can't hold them off much longer." Carrington's gaze was fixed on the displays, where the enemy ships danced across the screen like predators closing in on their prey. Every shot from the alien fleet sent violent tremors through their warship. The once pristine vessel was now scared, battered, and struggling to stay in the fight. Despite the pain and the destruction, she refused to give in. "Divert all remaining power to the engines," Carrington barked. "Get us out of here. We'll take the fight to them, on our terms." The engines roared to life as the ship made a sharp turn, hurtling through space toward the enemy fleet at full speed. The move was risky, a maneuver that had the potential to either break their enemy's formation or leave them completely vulnerable. But Carrington knew that they had no other option. In the heart of the battle, the warship accelerated, darting and weaving through incoming fire. The alien ships, seemingly synchronized in their movements, struggled to adjust to the unpredictable course the humans had taken. But their firepower was overwhelming. Despite their best efforts to dodge, a series of blasts slammed into the warship's hull, sending sparks flying and alarms blaring throughout the ship. "We've lost our starboard thrusters," one of the engineers yelled. "We can't stabilize." Carrington gritted her teeth. "All hands, brace for impact. Keep firing." Another round of fire was unleashed, and this time, their shots found their mark. The first of the alien ships, once untouchable, exploded into a brilliant shower of debris as the human weapons tore through its outer defenses. It was a small victory, but it was enough to give the crew a glimmer of hope. "We've done it," Jurek cried, his voice full of disbelief. "They're backing off." But the alien fleet didn't retreat. Instead, something far worse happened. From the depths of the enemy formation, a massive ship emerged, far larger and more powerful than anything the humans had ever seen. Its surface was an unnatural shade of black, and its weapons glowed with a terrifying energy. As it drew closer, the atmosphere on the bridge became thick with dread. Carrington's voice dropped to a cold whisper. "That's not just a warship. That's their flagship." The alien flagship was an overwhelming presence in space, dwarfing every other ship in its fleet. It radiated a sense of finality, as if it were the harbinger of the end for all who dared to challenge it. The humans could now see it clearly on their scanners. Hundreds of turrets lining its surface, capable of firing simultaneously with precision. The sheer firepower was enough to obliterate them in moments. "Get us out of its line of sight," Carrington ordered, her mind racing for a way to outmaneuver the oncoming storm. The ship's sensors began to ping frantically as the alien flagship locked onto their position. The humans could feel the weight of the situation closing in on them. If they didn't act quickly, this might be their last stand. But then, amidst the tension, the unexpected happened. The alien flagship's weapons powered down. Carrington stared in disbelief as the massive ship, which had been preparing to strike, suddenly ceased all aggressive action. The other alien vessels followed suit, halting their barrage. "Why are they stopping?" Jurek muttered, his voice filled with confusion. The bridge fell silent as the human crew tried to make sense of the sudden change. Were the aliens retreating, or was this part of a greater strategy? Before Carrington could issue any further commands, a new transmission came through, one that was unmistakably human. The language was clear, but the tone was chilling. "Commander Carrington, we know what you've done. You've awakened us, but you were never meant to find the truth. You've triggered a war that cannot be undone." The voice was harsh, cold, and unrecognizable. Carrington's stomach twisted. The message wasn't coming from the enemy fleet, but from a deep, encrypted channel they had never encountered before. It was a warning, but not from the aliens. "We have no choice now," the voice continued. "You will learn the truth, but it will cost you everything." Then the transmission cut off. The silence that followed was deafening. Carrington felt her pulse quicken. The message was clear. Humanity was no longer just a target of the alien forces. Someone, something else had been watching them. Someone who didn't want them to succeed. And just as quickly as the message had come, the alien ships began to move. But this time, they weren't heading toward the human warship. Instead, they turned, accelerating away in a coordinated formation. "They're leaving," Jarek asked, disbelief still in his voice. Carrington's mind was spinning, but she refused to show fear. "No, they've been ordered to retreat, for now. But it's not over. Whoever just contacted us, they're coming. And they'll bring something far worse than these aliens." The crew stood in stunned silence, knowing deep down that they had only won a temporary victory. The true battle had yet to begin, and the cost of their discovery would soon become all too clear. The shadows unleashed. The calm after the battle was unnerving. The once chaotic battlefield had fallen silent, save for the distant hum of the human warship's failing engines. The crew was exhausted, their bodies battered and bruised, but there was a deeper weariness in their eyes. They had survived, yes, but now they were facing something far more dangerous: the unknown. Commander Carrington stood at the center of the bridge, staring out into the vast emptiness of space, her mind trying to process everything that had transpired. The alien fleet had retreated, but the message they had received, cryptic, chilling, and foreboding, echoed in her mind. It was clear that the forces they had awakened were far beyond anything they had encountered before. "Commander," Jarek's voice broke through her thoughts. He stood beside her, looking just as troubled. "We need to know what's going on. Who sent that message? And why did the alien fleet back off like that?" "They had us cornered." Carrington sighed heavily, rubbing her temples. She had no answers, but she knew one thing for sure. They couldn't ignore the message. The fact that someone, or something, knew their every move meant they were being watched, and it wasn't by the alien forces they had just fought. It was something far more powerful. "We don't have a choice, Jarek. We have to find out who's behind this," Carrington said, her voice steady, though her mind raced with uncertainty. The crew had barely begun to regain their composure when a new alert flashed across the bridge screens. The once quiet space around them was now disturbed, as if the calm was just the lull before the storm. The ship's sensors detected something, a faint signal, unlike anything they had encountered before. The readings were off the charts, strange and unsettling. "Captain, we're picking up an unknown signature," one of the officers reported, his voice tinged with fear. "It's moving toward us. Fast." Carrington's heart skipped a beat. Another enemy, or something worse. "Can we identify it?" she asked, her voice tight. The officer shook his head. "It's unlike any ship we've ever encountered. Its energy signature. It's almost like it's bending the fabric of space itself." A chill ran down Carrington's spine. She knew what that meant. They were no longer dealing with just a war for survival. Whatever was approaching them had the power to manipulate the very laws of physics. This wasn't just a new alien species. This was something ancient, something that could bend reality itself. "All hands, prepare for impact," Carrington ordered, her voice sharp. "This is no ordinary threat." The warship lurched as a massive energy pulse shot out from the mysterious object, striking the human ship with a force that threw the crew off their feet. The lights flickered, alarms blared, and the ship groaned under the pressure. It felt as though the very fabric of the ship was being torn apart by an invisible force. "Shields are failing," another officer cried. "We can't hold it much longer." Carrington gritted her teeth and grabbed the controls, her eyes locked on the readouts. She knew they couldn't fight this force head-on, not without risking total destruction. They needed to find a way to escape, to figure out what this new enemy wanted. As the mysterious craft drew closer, the air in the bridge grew thick with tension. The crew was on edge, their minds racing to understand the situation. No one had ever encountered something like this before. Not the humans, and certainly not the alien invaders who had once thought themselves supreme. Then, without warning, the mysterious craft stopped. The crew collectively held their breath, waiting for the next move. The energy pulse had stopped, and the strange object simply hovered in space, its ominous presence now a silent threat. "Incoming transmission," the communication officer announced, her voice trembling. Carrington's gaze hardened. She wasn't sure whether to feel relief or terror. She had a sinking feeling that the worst was yet to come. The screen flickered to life, revealing a figure in a dark cloak. Its face was obscured, but the voice that followed was chilling in its calmness. "You have crossed a threshold, Commander Carrington. There is no turning back now." The voice echoed with an ancient power, one that seemed to reach into the very soul of the humans listening. The figure's words sent a shiver through the crew, and Carrington felt her heart race. "Who are you?" Carrington demanded, her voice barely a whisper. "Why are you doing this?" The cloaked figure's laugh was hollow, almost as if it were the echo of something far older, far more dangerous than any living being. "I am the one who watches. I am the one who guards the secrets of the universe, and you, humans, have just unlocked them." The transmission cut off abruptly, and the ship was plunged into a terrifying silence. "We need answers, now," Jarek said urgently, his voice full of fear. Carrington nodded, her mind whirling. They had been exiled from the stars, forced to build a civilization from nothing. They had fought tooth and nail to survive, to prove themselves in the face of overwhelming odds. And now, they had stumbled upon something far worse than anything they had ever faced, an ancient, all-powerful force that had been watching them from the shadows. "Prepare to engage evasive maneuvers," Carrington ordered, though she knew deep down that running might not be enough this time. The universe had just shifted, and humanity was about to find out that they had been playing with forces far beyond their comprehension. But no matter the cost, no matter the danger, they would face it. They had to, because one thing was certain: they would not go down without a fight. The stakes had been raised. The universe itself was watching, and humanity had no idea just how deep the rabbit hole went. The shadows had been unleashed, and with them, a destiny that would change everything forever.